The really scary part of this story is just a few days before FTX went bankrupt, I actually had $130,000 in there. Literally 3 days or 4 days before.
What am I gonna do?
My friends think it's the worst week in cryptocurrency history.
$130,000 is a lot of money. I pretty much dodged a bullet by literally taking it out 3 to 4 days before. Massive luck. But I did actually lose some money, around $11,000, which still sucks.
No, God, please, no!
So a few days ago, I woke up, checked my FTX, and all the money was gone. Every single dollar that I had in there, and it was $11,000, and that sucks. But my message to you today in this video is going to be really important, so please listen up. I remember waking up that day, looking at it, and not having that money. It really pissed me off. Initially, I was in shock that it happened. I couldn't believe it. I kept trying to log in again and again and again. And every single time I tried to log into FTX, it just wouldn't allow me to log in. It would just keep loading over and over again. Then I immediately went on Reddit. And on Reddit, when I searched it up, it said that no, the withdrawals are fine. People were taking out their withdrawals. And so people could still withdraw their money. So I was like, okay, I could take out my $11,000 through withdrawals. I'll go do that. And then it ended up getting even worse because I kept going back and I kept trying again and again. Same thing. It just kept giving me an error, or it would keep taking forever to load. And that was very unlike FTX. And that's why I was using it. I was storing my USD there because one of the companies that I work with, Solana, they're sponsoring my channel, Clever Programmer. So they send me funds in Solana USDC. I mean, you don't have to know all this technical nerdy stuff, but I would always take the money from my ledger, wire it over to my FTX, and then I would take it out from FTX and send the withdrawal directly to my bank account. That was my process. The really scary part of this story is just a few days before FTX went bankrupt, I actually had $130,000 in there. Literally 3 days or 4 days before, very few days before. That would have been terrifying. That would have been really awful. But $11,000 was bad, but not too bad. And here's a message that I also want to give you. Think about if you experienced this. Think about if you woke up and you were exactly in my position. What would happen? If you woke up and you saw that the $11,000 you had, you just could not get access to it. You could not take it out no matter what you did. You would log on and it would just error out. How frustrated would you feel? Would you feel angry? Would you feel upset? Would you feel betrayed? Would you feel taken advantage of? Would you want to call everything a scam? Would it affect your rent? Would it affect your lifestyle in a deep way? Would it make you depressed? Would it financially ruin you? Would it put you in debt? I mean, what would happen, right? Think about that. And I'm not even trying to brag with this, but I had shock initially. I wanted it back. I was furious and angry at some point, and I was desperately trying to look for an answer. But after about 10 or I would say 20 minutes of it, I just came to terms with it that I wasn't going to get my money back. I looked up online. Everybody was saying that FTX is going to be going bankrupt. Now, officially, they're bankrupt. If you actually type in FTX, it just gives you an error. Yeah, it's pretty scary that overnight, $1 billion company can just go bankrupt.
FTX went from a $32 billion company to bankruptcy in the matter of just 4 days or so.
And then it gives you pause and it makes you feel peaceful in life as well, actually. So there are a couple of lessons. One, never be in such a financially dire situation that losing $10,000 or $11,000 would ruin your day, week, month, and maybe a lot of your life. I never want to be in that position. And so I'm lucky, and I'm not, there is luck involved, but I have worked really hard, tremendously hard to put myself in a situation where $11,000 losing it kind of sucks, but it's like, nah, it's really not that big of a deal. But I'm glad that I was able to put myself in that position financially where that stressor didn't ruin me. Number two, life is long. Have patience. So here's what I mean by that. We are always having this low-grade humming and anxiety in the back of our heads, like we're not going fast enough. We're not where we want to be. I'm 28 years old. I feel like I'm so far behind Mr. Beast, who's 24 and he's a billionaire. Nelk boys who are so young and they're killing it. A Logan who's so young and just so famous and he has his drink Prime and he's going to be $1 billion company. When I look at that, honestly, it's like I feel anxious and I feel a level of I'm hyped by them and I love them and I want to create a brand like that. But I would be lying if I said that I don't feel the sense of like urgency all the time. And when you know, see a company, $1 billion company, go bankrupt overnight, you realize, stop trying to go so fast. Like, even, you know, I don't know if you guys know about Kevin David, you know, he's in the marketing niche, but basically he was fined like $53 million by the FTC. He had to fork out about 2.6 of his inability to pay the rest. Like, that is some scary shit. But what it tells you is, when you're so focused on trying to go fast, what happens is you start focusing on the wrong things. Like in business, you have marketing, sales, and fulfillment, right? But when you're trying to go so fast, you just start focusing on the marketing and the sales part, and you forget about fulfillment, you know? And I've experienced this myself, where fulfillment is like an afterthought and it's not really that much of a focus. And it's just like, come on, like Grant Cardone just says sell, 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 sell. Fulfillment is for losers. Like, who cares about customer satisfaction? Let's just go and get more customers. And many years later in the business, it was like, oh no, fulfillment is actually everything. Fulfillment is how you get recurring customers. Fulfillment is how you max out your LTV. Fulfillment is where, if your competitor spends $100 on ads and you spend $100 on ad, you'll get a 10x ROI in the long run, whereas your competitor breaks even or loses money. Fulfillment is like the secret to business, actually. When you're trying to go so quick, you forget all of that and you just make mistakes and you do dumb shit and you get into massive trouble, and it hurts you, and it can hurt your reputation, and it can hurt a lot of things in your life. Again, this kind of sucks, and I even hate to be thinking like this, but that $1 billion company going down kind of gives my mind peace. Like, hey, if you were, let's just say, going that fast and you were making mistakes trying to go that fast, you could be that horror story tomorrow, right? You could experience what FTX has experienced and the consequences Sam Friedman is facing, and maybe there might even be jail time or whatever. And it's scary shit. Like, that's real scary, and it can happen so quickly, right? One day everything is working. If you're especially a business owner or you're running an e-commerce store or whatever, like, things are working, things are going well, you're making 50, 100 grand a month, whatever, nothing feels like it can go wrong, and then just boom, overnight you just don't see it coming, and all of a sudden you're out of compliance and you had all these other problems, and it can just accrue so fast. And so I think just giving your mind a little bit of peace, like going slow is actually going fast. Work on the right things, work on the fulfillment. It's okay if it takes longer, because then you won't spend all these years of hard work only to destroy everything you've ever done. And honestly, that's a frightening thing to think about. I think it's a deep fear that a lot of people probably experience. You know, one time I remember with my mom and dad, I love my dad, amazing guy. I love my mom, amazing. But it was their 25th anniversary, and it was a really important event. And we were in Chicago. We were gonna go to this fancy restaurant. We're driving, we cross this red light, and my dad just starts going off. And he's like, no, what is this? Like, why? This is a huge problem. Like, why do we do this? Why did you cross? I think I was driving the car, so it was my mistake. We get out of the car, we're in the restaurant, and the entire time he's just stressing and complaining. You know, it's probably gonna be like $100 ticket, and talking about it the entire night. We still made the most of it. We still had fun. We got over it at some point, but like, I just remember thinking, I was pretty young at that point. I was like maybe 15, 16 years old or something like that. And I just remember thinking, I'm like, that much time complaining on such an important day about money, about $100 ticket? Like, who gives a shit? It doesn't matter at all. And it's not more important than your children. You know, it's not more important than you, Dad. Like, you're an amazing human being. Like, you brought us here from Pakistan, risked so much of your life, gave up everything, and, you know, migrated here to provide us with education and everything. And it has such an impact, right? And it made such a imprint on my mind at that young age when I experienced this. And I realized, I'm like, this is not the way. Like, I have to do things where I have so much money where that's just a non-factor. And then I remember in my life, I would get a parking ticket and I just wouldn't care. I would be like, whatever, who cares, right? And so that's been my mindset. And so my thought to you is, have you done that to put yourself in that position where truly you would feel the same way? One is you have to actually put yourself in that position. That's one really important thing, where money-wise it doesn't matter. So you actually have to get your money up. Two, are you mentally putting yourself in that position where you don't make it a problem? Because I know some people who have money and they'll still complain and bitch and moan about like little things with money. You don't want to have that be a factor in your life. So if you're watching this and you follow me in any capacity, get your money up. Get your money up so where one day you wake up and you lose $11,000 and you don't really give a shit. When you get $100 ticket, you don't ruin your 25th anniversary, or your first anniversary or second anniversary, whatever it may be. Don't be a victim. I'm not gonna join the lawsuit of the to get my $11,000 back like everybody else. Like everybody else is just as pathetic. Like what the fuck are you doing with your life? You should be spending time building things, but everybody, all these normal people, they're just gonna be like, oh my God, I'm gonna like sue FTX. I get it. If you had so much money and then you lost it in it, that would suck. And so a lot of people are, if you have substantial amount of money that you lost, okay, a lawsuit makes sense, go for it. But if you've lost like $2,000 or $5,000 or $3,000 or $10,000, just focus on building your next thing, because you're gonna spend years trying to retrieve it. It's gonna be such a waste of your time most of the times. Just focus on building, focus on growing, focus on where it doesn't impact you, focus on having that armor. So actual armor is actually having more money, so where it doesn't matter. It's one. Two is having mental armor so that it doesn't affect you, so that when that happens, you don't really care. It doesn't bother you in any capacity whatsoever.